You're listening to the Generational Wealth Through Commercial Real Estate podcast. Your host, Will Smith, is a former NFL player that found his passion in commercial real estate. Every week, you will learn from industry experts everything you need to know to get started investing in commercial real estate to build generational wealth.
Thank you for tuning in to the Generational Wealth Through Commercial Real Estate show. Got a really special guest lined up for you today. But before we get into that, if you're watching this for the first time, go ahead and do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. And if you've been watching this show for some time now and you haven't left me a review, please leave me a review now. These reviews are how I keep bringing on rockstar guests like I have today. All right, housekeeping's out the way. Today's guest is Dan. Okay, I forgot it that quick. How you said Lewkowicz?
Lewkowicz, and you're Smith, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You got it. Yeah, he's a seasoned real estate veteran with over a decade of experience in many facets of real estate industry. He started his career in house hacking and quickly moved on to flip houses in and around the Metro Detroit, and eventually created a company called Renaissance Real Estate Ventures, which specializes in the acquisition, financing, renovation, and resale of single-family residential properties in the booming city of Detroit, Michigan. Hey, man, that was a pretty short intro, but Dan, I appreciate you coming on the show. Tell us about yourself, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much, Will. This is going to be a lot of fun, I can tell already. So yeah, Dan Lewkowicz, real estate investment has been, my life for the last decade plus. I am a broker. I'm a net lease broker, which means that I represent buyers and sellers in transactions in the net lease arena. So your typical Rite Aids, Walmarts, Walgreens, your industrial properties, your FedExes, Amazon fulfillment centers, shopping centers, multi-tenant strip centers, et cetera, et cetera. I have a team at Encore Real Estate Investment Services, and we work nationwide, so we sell all across the country. And then I myself have a background in single and multifamily real estate investment, and I still am involved on a syndication and fund management level. I've just had a lot of fun, been very thankful to meet a lot of great people like yourself, and I consider myself lucky to have a job that I'll do all day, every day, and it's not work.
Right. I mean, I can agree with you there. I'm a broker here in North Carolina, and to me, it's not a job, man. I love what I do, so I can second that. But man, tell us, how did you get your start in real estate? Because obviously you're doing a lot. You've got a lot of experience, a decade into this. But how did you first get that bug of real estate?
Yeah, good question. So if you want to really talk about the seed that was planted, it technically is well over a decade. Back in 2005, I started a business with my very best friend, whose father was diagnosed with a terminal illness of ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Mm-hmm. We started a company called Disability Made Easy, and it was a barrier-free home modification company. So in essence, it was a construction company, and I ran the sales and marketing, as that's always been my forte and my passion. Yeah. And I'll never forget this, Will. We were on our way to a client's home, and we had hired a project manager who was doing all the construction for us. I went there to do the deal, and I remember going up to this property. He takes out his little clipboard with his graph paper. I'm looking at this house thinking like, okay, it's just like every other house in the neighborhood. All of a sudden, I'm like, wow, look at what he just did. He took something that looks ordinary and pretty, obsolete functionally, right, into something wonderful. And from that moment on, I always had this bug of like, I could take a house, right? And I could take something that in the 50s or 60s, it made sense, but in 2005, 2010, 2015, 2020, it doesn't, right? For and I can re-envision it and reimagine it, reformat it, make it wonderful. And that really planted a seed within me. And then when it was time for myself and my family to buy our first home in Metro Detroit, I was looking at housing prices. This was in the middle of the recession, and I could get something that was good to go, move-in ready for $200,000, or I could go just down the street and buy something from the bank for $80,000,
yeah,
40, 50, 60,000, and have something that is retrofitted, functional, exactly the way I like it, just like I learned my project manager, 5 or 10 years earlier. And I loved it. I fell in love. My friends joked with me. They said, Dan, what are you going to do when you finish renovating your house? And I said, I'll buy another one.
Right.
Another one, bought another one, bought another one. And, I don't know, I've lost count, 50, 60, 70 houses later, wow. I still love it. And as a broker today, I'll be honest with you, I tell people, Will, that I'm a recovering house flipper. I see a deal and I'm like, oh man, I want to do it. I try to focus on brokerage, but you have a passion, you have something you love. And, I just interviewed on my show, Traeger Strasberg, an hour ago. She has an organization that helps, in inner city homes in terms of homeless to have their houses fixed up and all that. And we were just talking about how rewarding it is to have an impact on a neighborhood, a real measurable impact. You buy 5, 10, 15 houses in a neighborhood, you can literally change a whole neighborhood.
Right. No, that's very true, man. Very true. And you're doing a good deed by giving somebody a place to live, man. So that's awesome.
Yeah, totally. And you make it better, right? You open up the kitchen, you add an extra bathroom, you convert. Like I've taken houses in Detroit that had beautiful homes built in the 30s that had coal boilers, right? And we convert them and put in forced air, right? We put in modern amenities, and now you've got the beauty and the charm of 1930s architecture and build, but with the modern amenities that, a young family can enjoy for the rest of their life.
Right. No, that's a good deal, man. Really good deal. So, you did the single family, you house hacked, that strategy that you mentioned for those that are listening is called house hacking, which is a brilliant idea. And I wish I would have started that way. And then you went to what after house hacking? Because you did a lot of homes, but you also did some multifamily, somewhere in there as well, right?
Yeah. So what I did at that point is I started realizing that this is fascinating, but the paper is as valuable and much less labor intensive as the property, right? So what I started doing was basically pushing paper, right? I started, getting deals, and it's funny because a lot of guys get in the industry starting as wholesalers. I didn't. I started in the industry as a house hacker and as somebody who was putting deals together. But I quickly realized that if I came across a portfolio, let's say from a bank, and I could only buy 3 properties, but there were 30 in them, maybe I could parcel them off and put them in other things. And to this day, I'm still involved in different funds in and around the city of Detroit. And if something comes across my desk and I've got the self-control to not buy it and flip it, I'll give it to somebody else. So I got involved in multifamily along that process because I started having exposure to the 100, 200 unit properties in Detroit, but I didn't want to go through and renovate door after door after door after door. So what I ended up doing in that case was, syndicating a deal. And quickly at that point, I made some career transitions in the corporate world. I worked for, I was a fundraiser, which is also development and syndication for a large Jewish day school in Michigan. I worked for a title insurance agency running their sales department. I took that job because I wanted to learn about title because I was already a real estate investor.
Right.
Eventually, I was recruited by Amazon, and I was a business development executive at Amazon in Detroit, working on Amazon business. And it's funny, when I left the corporate world, I'll never forget this. I said to myself, Will, how many houses do I need to replace my income at Amazon?
Yep.
The answer was 20.
Yep.
Okay, the answer was 20. So at that point, I had already been purchasing homes in Detroit. And I don't know if you've been to Detroit, but you can buy a lot of houses for not a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I just bought and bought and bought and bought. And I quickly realized that I didn't even want to hold these properties necessarily because there was an opportunity to buy them, renovate them, and then sell them to other investors.
Yeah. What's that?
There's just so much opportunity.
Yeah. What is that called when you do that process? Is turnkey properties?
Turnkey rentals. Yeah.
Yep.
And as an investor, you have to be careful because there are turnkey companies that will give you a property that maybe I bought for $4,000 and put in 10. I'm in for 14. The fair market value is 35 or 40.
Yeah.
I'll sell, a guy, and then he'll turn around and sell it to somebody overseas for 80. So you got to be really careful.
Wow.
When you're buying turnkey, you want to make sure that even if the numbers make sense from a return on investment perspective, they also have to make sense from an equity perspective. Meaning the last thing you ever want is to pay more than something's worth.
Yeah.
Well, there's a huge market for that, but you have to make sure you got boots on the ground. That's why, if somebody's working in your market, they need a Will Smith, right? Because they can't just say, oh, great North Carolina, oh, great this, that, great numbers. No, without somebody who has the knowledge and the experience and the boots on the ground, it's very easy to make huge mistakes.
Right. Now, I want to ask you, man, because I don't know Detroit that well. I never been in Detroit. I never played the Detroit Lions, so I never been in Detroit.
You never played the Lions?
No, I never did. Well, I played them when I was with the Redskins, but that was in Ashburn. So
okay,
Landover. So I never been to Detroit though. But as far as the city goes, man, these properties that, you know, you're buying for, let's say, you know, 10, 15,000, are these like, you know, rat infested type places? Or, I mean, what kind of house are you buying for that kind of money over there, man?
So the city of Detroit is an incredible place. And like I said, I have some colleagues that are putting together really amazing portfolios that are, you know, parceled out to investors all over the country, giving incredible returns. I love Detroit. I've been involved in that real estate market for a long time. It's definitely changed and shifted. What I can tell you, excuse me, is that Detroit is unlike any other city. First of all, I believe it's probably one of the most undervalued cities in the country. It's one of the most incredible opportunities for real estate investment. It is, however, incredibly not just neighborhood by neighborhood, but block by block by block. Yeah. So if you tell me there's a house for $5,000 in one area, I'll tell you it's a bargain. In another area, I would say I wouldn't let you pay me $5,000.
Yeah.
So it all really depends. And, you know, I find that, you know, in Detroit, again, the neighborhood is very important. The most success I saw was buying, you know, in areas that were up and coming. Yeah. I always follow the money, right? So I had relationships with the city, and I also had relationships, believe it or not, with the, I'm giving away all my secrets, but I had relationships with the
That's what I do on the show, man.
The demo companies they would go through. The city of Detroit has 100,000 vacant properties that need demolition. Yeah. And they would demo, I'm talking like dozens of properties a week. So I would follow these companies and say, right, hey, this month, what zip codes are you demoing in? Because I knew if the city was buying parcels and if the city was investing money to demo, that's where they're developing. And then I would come in behind and buy the properties directly from the bank. Another cool thing about Detroit is that Detroit, you know, prior to rebranding to Renaissance Real Estate Ventures, we were actually doing the same exact thing in Oakland County, okay, which is like a county, a very wealthy county that surrounds Detroit. Mm-hmm. But time progressed and we got into 2014, 15, 16, the prices started going, you know, much higher. Well, the city of Detroit is like 7 or 8 years behind the rest of the country in terms of the foreclosure market. So wow. 16, 17, 18, 19, I'm now experiencing, you know, 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, et cetera. And we can buy directly from the bank because of the relationships that we had. Yep. So I found that buying, you know, a beautiful 1,800 square foot, all brick Tudor, you know, full basement, garage, gorgeous neighborhood in Bagley, that's a neighborhood in Detroit, in an opportunity zone, in an area where the city's investing tons of money, picking that up, you know, for $20,000 or $25,000, even if you put $60,000 or $70,000 in, making it beautiful and comfortable and livable and incredible, you've got a property that's worth $200,000, $225,000. It's really an incredible opportunity. Wow. And what we've noticed though is over the last 2 years, you know, the prices have just, you know, gone back, but there's still a lot of runway left. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's definitely very interesting. Very interesting. Multifamily too. Multifamily, the market there's a lot of opportunity. I was just about to ask you that, man. Take it to the commercial side of it. So, are so you're seeing the same kind of you know, benefits on the multifamily as far as the value being there? Well, listen, I mean, multifamily is a whole different discussion because I believe that there's a huge economy of scale, right? You can have one roof and one boiler and 50 or 100 units instead of 50 or 100 roofs and 50 or 100, you know, boilers or furnaces. So I like multifamily in general. I personally believe that there's an impending bloodbath in multifamily because of what's going on with the Small Business Administration loans and with the moratoriums on evictions. Yeah. In general, multifamily is very hot right now. The city of Detroit, I mean, a couple of years ago, we could pick stuff up for $7,000 to $12,000 a door. Wow. Right. And today the prices are higher, but keep in mind, I mean, a lot of it is government-backed Section 8 housing, and they're beautiful buildings. They require a lot of renovation, but you know, the neighborhoods are strong in a lot of areas. And if you renovate the right building in the right place with the right people, you can have an asset that's cash flowing at an insane rate. I mean, I can give you examples of properties that I was involved in where you're talking 30, 35% cash on cash. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Where do you get those numbers elsewhere in the country? Yeah, I don't know where you finding that at, man. Like that's Detroit, that's Michigan. Yeah, that's good, man. So let's talk about for a moment, man, because I know some people like, dang, I didn't know Detroit was that good. But then in the back of their mind, they're like, well, you know, Detroit, you know, auto industry. So talk about, if you would, man, Detroit's you know, economic drivers that, you know, somebody might not know if that's kind of outside the marketplace. Good question. So when I look at a market in multifamily, I look at a few things. One of the most important things is jobs, okay?
Yep.
And if you look at white collar jobs, typically for every white collar job that's brought to a city, you get approximately 4 blue collar jobs. So at one point in time, it's another secret, man. I like you too much. All right. At one point in time, we made a map of major neighborhoods in Detroit. And because this was like maybe around 15 or 16, because major corporations were adding jobs like crazy to Detroit, Ally Financial, Amazon. Now you've got Ford. They bought the train station in Detroit. They're building the first autonomous freeway from Detroit, Michigan, all the way out to Ann Arbor. Okay. So there's another 5,000 jobs there.
Yeah.
Quicken and Rocket Mortgage, they brought almost 20,000 jobs to the city of Detroit. So add those numbers up. I mean, you're talking 30, 40,000 white collar jobs, right? And then at the other, 4, I mean, you're talking over 100,000 jobs. So when you look at that, people typically live within a few miles of where they work. Now that's going to change because of COVID, right?
Yeah.
But that even with that variable, when we look at market demographics, we want to see how many people are living in an area, and more importantly, how many people are moving into an area. So the city of Detroit is run, yes, in part by the auto industry, but we have other industries that have moved in, and there's a lot of tech, there's a lot of autonomous services, there's a lot of big corporations and tech and major Fortune 100 companies that have moved to Detroit because it is affordable and it is a Renaissance city. We've got, Fifth Third Bank moving their headquarters downtown. Got a lot of companies that move downtown from the surrounding cities. So, I think that the economic drivers for sustained and increased multifamily, rental rates are there. And what's incredible is we saw in the city of Detroit already years ago, the price per square foot of rental properties is making it realistic and economical to build. So that was super. When we crossed that threshold and we saw that people were paying $2 a foot a month to rent, it's like, okay, now we can build. So all over Detroit, there's it's like the crane is the bird of our city. It's incredible. Yeah. So I think that those drivers are very important. And then, also the fact is that young people like us are moving into the city. And, I'm the son of parents who fled Detroit during the riots. Yeah. And see my generation move back into the city to live, work, eat, and play is just incredible.
Yeah. No, that's pretty awesome, man. Now, what kind of cap rates are you guys seeing in Detroit as far as multifamily?
So keep in mind, I am a net lease broker. I want to caveat that.
Yeah.
The country, in terms of multifamily, it's going to run the gamut because you've got, I could show you product that's in the suburbs that's $150,000 a door. I could show you product in the city of Detroit that's $30,000 to $40,000 a door. If I'm looking at single family residential that I'm buying myself, I'm in for 35 or 40, I'm renting that property out for $1,000 a month. Okay.
Wow.
$1,000 a month. And that's an all brick house in an
Hold on. Say it again. You buying that house for how much?
Give you an example. Outer Drive and Livernois. Anybody from Detroit knows where that is. That was a mile of fashion. That's an opportunity zone. The city has dubbed it Live 7. It's 7 Mile in Livernois area, technically.
Yeah.
So there's a property there on the corner. It's 1,400 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, garage, full basement in an incredible area. That property was picked up for $36,000, spent $250 fixing the garage, put a tenant in there. Okay. Yep. And that tenant who was in there was paying $1,000 a month. Okay. Wow. Cash flowed that property for a year. Okay. Now after that, that property is cash flowed for a year outside of the capital gains. Okay. Yep. Math on that, $1,000 a month, spending $36,250. Now at that point, we're talking late 2019. I looked at the market. You can look on LinkedIn. I wrote an article about this in February of 2020. Okay. End of 2019, I said to myself, this is a property I'd advise anybody who's holding this, throw it up on the MLS for $49,900, see what happens. Just as an experiment. If somebody buys it, fantastic. Threw it up on a Monday. By Friday, we were under contract for $60,000 cash.
Wow.
So what's my problem? My problem is, do I want a 30% ROI or do I want to make $25,000 in a year after cash flowing $1,000 a month? That is a classic example of City of Detroit residential real estate investment. Now on a multifamily scale, you're going to pay way less per door. Okay. Yeah. Granted, we're a year ahead of where I'm referring, 2 years ahead of where I'm referring. So things change.
Yep.
But my point is that, even if prices go up by 15%, you're still buying that house instead of for 36,000, you're buying it for, 38, 39, 40,000. So, from an investment perspective, it's incredible. And you can even go into the lower end neighborhoods. That wasn't even a Section 8 rental. You can go into the lower end neighborhoods in some of the Section 8 havens, like the 48205.
Yeah.
It was nicknamed the 4820 die. Okay. It was the most dangerous zip code in the country. It's gotten a lot better.
Right.
A lot. But you can pick up property there and be in for 20, be in for 22, 23, and rent that out for 750, 850, 875, something like that.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. That's crazy. All right, man. So let's go ahead and transition into what you're doing now for your day job, man, the triple net side. I know there's some people listening that, would love to learn more about how they can get involved with triple net and why it makes sense to go triple net versus other assets. So let's talk about that, man. Okay,
great. So we talked about these insane cap rates, right? 25, 30% return on investment.
Yeah.
High risk, right? Not a lot of diversification. It could be a single unit, and it's going to be highly management intensive. Go to the opposite end of the spectrum, the most stable, the most secure assets, right? National tenants, they might have 1,000 or 2,000 units that are backing the lease, okay? The cap rate might only be 5.5%, might be 6%, might be 7%, depending on the asset, what it is, where it is, and how much time is left on the lease.
Yeah.
A month-to-month rental, right, with someone in Section 8 or a yearly rental with someone in Section 8, I might have a 15-year lease, which means I've got, quote-unquote, guaranteed income for 15 years, and that lease is backed by a corporation like Walgreens or like, TBC, which owns Tire Kingdom and Big O Tires and National Tire and Battery, or it could be, Aldi or Kroger or something like that. So we're talking about not only low risk, but we're talking about incredibly passive. So the term triple net really stands for, the three N's stand for taxes and insurance. Okay, so those are actually paid by the tenant.
Yep.
The landlord doesn't pay them. Common area maintenance, which is any maintenance to the building. And then also roof and structure and parking. So everything, even if the building needs to be painted, it needs a new roof, parking lot needs to be restriped, the tenant pays for it. So this is the quintessential example of mailbox money.
Yeah.
And I say, I always, like I said before, follow the money. Look at the huge real estate investment trusts. Look at the huge hedge funds. They all invest in net leased assets for all of the reasons I just mentioned. They're highly secure, they're highly stable, they're low risk, and they're incredibly passive. Yeah. So I'm dealing with a couple deals right now. I have 4 Burger Kings. You like Burger Kings?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got 4 Burger Kings in Montana. I just listed them last week. They're in the 5 cap range, anywhere from 5.03 cap to maybe a 5.5 cap. Yep. Great stores, very secure, great franchisee, incredible sales, like $2 million sales for some of the locations. I got a hospital, a medical office building in Iowa that just went under contract. So those are our typical deals, right? And those will trade anywhere from, a Chick-fil-A might be at a 4.5 cap, a Burger King in the 5s, Taco Bell in the 5s, a medical office building could be in the 7s, maybe, a multi-tenant shopping center, you could get in the 8, 9 caps, depending on where they are. If it's a value add, right, if there's some vacancy or some upside potential, maybe you get it at a 10 or 11 cap. Yeah. But that's the band that I'm helping investors trade in, is that 4.5, 11 cap range. And it's really an area that is going to get more and more popular as we see more and more volatility in the equities markets, markets, and in my family, frankly.
Right. So, the typical buyer for this, is it only like these big like REITs, corporations, or do the mom and pop type owners buy them as well?
I was going to say it's got small guys like us, but I'll say it's small guys like me and big guys like you. It's everybody, though. Honestly, it's everybody. I have clients that bought their first net lease building or sold their first net lease building. And then I have huge corporations, publicly traded real estate investment trusts that are investing $1.35 billion next year in net lease, right?
Wow.
Full gamut.
Wow. No, that's crazy, man. So to reiterate what you just said, the benefit of buying triple net is you essentially don't have to do anything. You're getting a check every month. and it's pretty secure because you have a corporate tenant that's in place that's going to make sure you get paid every month.
Yeah, and it's that corporate tenant. So like, let's say that you own the Tire Kingdom that I sold you, and that shop something goes wrong, bad market, bad operator, I don't know, something goes wrong. Well, there's 1,000 other Tire Kingdoms on that lease guaranteeing your payment. So the company can't say, hey, Will, I'm sorry, we're not doing well this year, we got to shutter. They will say, hey, Will, we're not doing well, we're going to close the store, but we're going to pay you every month for the next 15 years because we have.
Wow.
So the security is there.
Yeah.
They're great vehicles for people who want security and passive income.
Right. So somebody that's getting, well, number one, like you said, they want secure income, but so I would imagine that this triple net would make a lot of sense for someone that's getting near retirement age and they like real estate over the markets. Then this is a really good strategy for them, right?
Yeah, and there's also other cool tips and tricks. Like this is something that's a little bit higher level. It's called a blend and extend. So let's say I got a Walgreens somewhere in Ohio. Let's say I was like, Will, you want to buy this Walgreens or maybe we'll invest in it. There's 14 months left on the lease. I can get it for you at a 10 cap because it's very short term and there's a little bit of risk. Well, if you have a relationship with Walgreens, or maybe I have a relationship with Walgreens, right?
Yeah.
We can go ahead and do what's called a blend and extend, where we contact Walgreens and we say, hey, Walgreens, we will lower your rent slightly in exchange for you giving us a brand new 10-year lease. And they say, okay, cool. We want to stay anyway. Now that property, now that you have a 10-year lease instead of 1 year and change lease, instead of 10 cap, maybe it's a 7 cap. Okay. So now you do the math, your NOI, your net operating income has gone down slightly, but your cap rate has gone down a lot. Therefore, you might have just built up $600,000 or $800,000 in equity in the property, literally overnight. So that's a cool way. It's not just for security and long-term income. You can play with it a little bit, and you can, so to speak, instead of me going and rehabbing houses and being, I call an adult daycare specialist, right, watching over contractors, I can rehab leases.
Wow.
I can flip leases. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now that's the first time I heard that. That's pretty cool there. Now, I guess the risk side of it comes where what happens if you can't get, say, Walgreens to renew the lease? Like, what are plan B options in that scenario?
Good question. It would be retenanting. So at that point, if Walgreens says, hey, we're vacating, which, by the way, it's a risk. I'm not going to lie to you. I just wrote an article on LinkedIn yesterday. Amazon officially entered the pharmacy space.
Wow.
Yeah, the big three of RX, of pharmacy are, Walgreens, Rite Aid, and CVS.
Yeah.
Now CVS is a little bit better positioned than the other two because they've got Minute Clinics and they've got Aetna Health. So they're diversified and they've got more of like an in-house experience that Amazon can't touch as much. But those pharmacies are in trouble. And in fact, they've all been decreasing their store footprint. So Walgreens is going from the 10 or 12,000 square foot to a Cooper concept, which is only 2,200 square feet, and to a drive-through only micro pharmacy, which is already out on the market.
Wow.
So the real risk here, Will, in that case, and obviously I would never advise a client to do this deal I referred to you at unless they knew and had a relationship with Walgreens and knew they were going to extend. Because the risk is that box goes vacant. And now remember, all those triple nets are now on you, the owner. You got to pay taxes. You got to pay insurance. You got to pay to fix it, right? You got to pay common area maintenance.
Yeah.
So at that point, now you're faced with the dilemma of retenanting. So you got to find a new tenant to put in. And granted, in some cases, it's easy. In some cases, you might get a tenant that will pay market rent, whereas the other asset was below market. But on the other hand, if Walgreens decided they didn't want to make it there, who else is going to make it there? So that's definitely why you need a skilled, educated, honest, straightforward broker to navigate and advise you through those transactions.
Yeah. No, that's all good points there, man, because that is a huge gamble, especially if you're going to go with the blended and extend model, which no risk, no reward, but at the same time, man, that's scary to be sitting there holding the bag at the end, man. If you can
actually negotiate with the pharmacies during before you purchase the property, and even during the due diligence. So if it's done right, you could theoretically, by the time you close to purchase it, you could already have the new lease in place.
So bottom line, if somebody's saying about triple net, they need to be calling Dan.
Hey, that's what I say. I'd rather hear an NFL player saying that. That's a better advertisement. Plus, you could you could give him a little bit of muscle. I'm just this little guy. You know what I'm saying?
Right. For sure, man. So, is there anything else as far as the underwriting side that an investor needs to be looking at when they're looking at these opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, and this is why this is the time. This is definitely a time to evaluate your property to see if you want to sell it. There's a lot of tax reform that's on the chopping block this year. Okay, it's really scary. You've got capital gains taxes and 1031 might go away. So it's obviously, even if you don't want to sell the property today, get it evaluated. And myself and my team will evaluate it for free. We'll put together a beautiful proposal for you, let you know what it's worth. Even if you're not going to sell, you want to have that. So that's important for the seller. Now, as a buyer, look at the 10-year T-bill. Look at the treasury. We've been below 1% for months. That's unheard of. I mean, even year and a half ago, we were 150 basis points higher. So in real estate, especially when you're borrowing money and you're levering, it's all about the spread. So if you can borrow at, I'm watching guys get insane mortgages. If it's on the residential side, I've got a colleague of mine just got a 30-year fix on a 4-unit on a 4-plex that he's going to be living for 2.3%. Okay.
Wow.
Commercial side for net lease, you're going to be in the 3s, maybe high 3s, but it's insane. That same property that you're buying at a 7 or 8 cap a couple of years ago when interest rates were 4 or 5% or even higher, right now you've got that extra spread. That's your gravy. So when you're underwriting, don't forget to speak with a broker who has good lender relationships, or if it's another broker who doesn't, not me, but who doesn't, make sure you talk to your lenders, because you want to make sure that you're looking at a true cash on cash return and take advantage of this. The government is handing out money at historic rates that we've never seen rates like this. Okay. So it's really important to underwrite your deal and focus on that.
Right. Now, if you're buying, this is your money. If you're buying a triple net property, which one are you buying? That's what we want to know.
I personally would do that Walgreens blend and extend, because I would pick it up for a 9 or a 10 cap, blend and extend it right away. And then I would sell it. And I would take that big equity and then boom, take that money and reinvest in something else. Now, I happen to really like shopping centers because they're diversified. One tenant goes out, another tenant comes in, and you're not losing all your income. Right now is a weird time for shopping centers.
Yeah.
4 shopping centers in Michigan right before COVID. And then I pivoted really hard into the medical office and the tire stores and the fast food, because those are essential retailers. But I still do feel that as long as you have a well-balanced shopping center that has some experiential retail and has some necessary tenants that are essential, those are great assets. If I want super security and stability, I love fast food, man. I personally eat too much of it, but people do. It's relatively recession proof. When people start losing their jobs and making less money, they eat more at fast food and less at casual dining.
Right.
When everything else is closed, but the drive-thrus are open, I could show you dozens of properties with aerial photos from our drone companies, and you got lines wrapping around the building. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when I'm looking at a business that's paying $100,000 in rent, okay, but they're bringing in $2 million in sales, that business is never closing, ever, right? Yeah. So that's an asset I want to buy. But I would say the answer to your question, really, I should have said this at first, is the asset that I want to buy may not be the asset that you want to buy. And a good broker will never talk you into an asset that's best for them. Yeah. They'll understand your needs and your desires and your plan, and they'll find you the asset that fits best for you.
Yeah. No, that's the right answer. All right, man. So just one quick question before we go to the last segment of the show. The blend and extend model, what is the time frame typically on that? So the example you gave, what would you be?
It depends on the tenant, right? So again, you can get it done in 3 months. You can get it done in 2 months. It depends on the tenant. Sometimes you can actually get the property under contract, work with the tenant, and by the time you're ready to close, you've already got the new lease in place, right? Gotcha. So and that's why that takes some of the risk out. But it all depends on the tenant and the relationship. And truthfully, your broker has to know the tenants. I have tenants I work with today that, last year they would have done a lease amendment, or they would have done a lease change, or they would have done a blend and extend. This year they're like, man, it's COVID. We're not doing anything that used to take us a month is taking us a year. So, and that's not true across the board. My point is that you have to have good relationships. It's all about those relationships and making sure that you're working with the tenant in a reasonable way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All I'm Those right now are taking a little bit longer because, everything takes longer today. So, keep that in mind. But you know what? As an industry, we're all working with each other. The brokers are working with the attorneys, are working with the lenders, are working with the third-party people, the environmental people, the inspectors, the appraisers, because we all know that we're in this together. So it's like we might move slower, but we're moving slower in unison.
Right. No, I mean, that's the best point right there, man. It's all about, relationships. No matter what you're trying to do in this world, man, if you don't got the relationships, you can forget about it.
Yep.
All right, man. So here we're in the last segment of the show, man. Our lightning round. A couple questions for you. All right. What's the best advice you ever been given?
The best advice I've ever been given is to find yourself a great mentor and do exactly what they say.
Great advice. What's the best book you've read this year?
It's a tie. Am I allowed to have a tie?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first book is Think and Grow Rich. I actually read it 5 times straight. I read it and just kept reading. Great book. The other book, I hope that Daniel Millman is watching this, one of my financial advisors and a great friend. He told me I'm not allowed to tell anybody about this book. I told him I don't care. He says this book is so good that if I tell people, it's like giving away the secrets, but I don't care because there's plenty to see and deals for all of us to do. It's called Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini, and it's all about sales and psychological influence. Again, a book I've read 5 times. Love it.
Gotcha.
Can I ask you? I'm curious about that.
Well, I mean, I like Think and Grow Rich. That's a great book. What is the other one? Well, obviously, Rich Dad Poor Dad, man. That really influenced me to get into real estate. If it wasn't for that, man, who knows where I'd be at right now, man. So,
here's one for you. If you're a multifamily guy, you have to read Multifamily Millions. Great book if you're a multifamily guy.
Who's that by? Is that Dave Lindo book?
Yes.
Yeah. I've heard it, but I haven't read it.
You have to. It's this thick. It's an amazing read, and you'll be like, wow, this is good.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. What are some rituals that you're doing right now that's making you a better investor or person in general?
I get up early. That helps. I try to eat clean. You know what I mean? I got my big ass bottle of kombucha right here.
Yeah.
And I've made time to record streamcasts and put them out there. I have daily content that goes up every day on LinkedIn, and I'm part of a lot of next level mastermind groups. So I constantly am talking to people that have more money than me, that are smarter than me, faster, quicker, and just learning and listening. I think that's been huge. Surrounding myself by people that will, make me better. I'll use an analogy my dad always told me. He used to say, Danny, I love basketball despite my stature. He's like, if you want to become better at basketball, always be the worst guy on the court. And I'm sure you can attest to that. If you're the best player, right? So in investment too, I want to be the smallest guy on the court, always.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a more great advice, man. I love it. What is one thing you're doing right now to help you improve your business?
I would say investing in it. I hired some interns. I have a junior broker. I've got an assistant. I've taken, some capital from my deals and then reinvested it more than I normally would into my business. And I believe that if you have a good business, there's no better place to put your dollars than in your own business. You can find a vehicle that gives you a better return, but it really shouldn't. So for me, it's, chopping some off the top, putting it into savings, chopping some of the top and putting it into my business. And then, just going full steam ahead. I actually saw a cool interview, you'll appreciate it, from Shaquille O'Neal. And they interviewed him. They said, you had a lot of money at a young age. What's some advice that you have? And he said, hey, can I see your piece of paper? And the reporter said, sure. So he said, can I rip it in half? The reporter said, sure. He rips it in half. He goes, if you're smart, this is what you take in your paycheck, put half away. He goes, and if you're really smart and if you want to be really rich, take the other half, rip that, put that away. He goes, this is what you'd use to buy your shoes, to buy your watch, to go out to dinner. That way, no matter how much you spend, you already 75% of your money saved. And I think that's great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, that really is. All right, man, if you can give your younger self one tip in regards to investing, what would that be?
I would say learn and be humble. I thought I knew a lot early, and I had some huge, listen, I'll be the first to tell you, I lost some money.
Yeah.
I had some bad deals, but I came back from them stronger. My point is that as a younger self, I would have said, don't try to show other people that you know stuff. Try to show other people that you don't know stuff and that they know stuff and that it's valuable to them and to you for you to learn from them. So make yourself valuable and humble and find a mentor and learn. Like, don't spend any time showing other people, like showing off and showing other people that you know things. Spend time with people who do know things and who are willing to teach you.
Yeah. Gotcha. No, that's great. That's great. All right. Last question, a funny one, man. What's the worst job you ever had?
Man, it depends on how many of my bosses are watching this. I would say, gosh, the worst job I ever had. Oh man, I don't want to put any corporations down, but let me think here. I would say that I'm not going to name any names.
Yeah, don't name the company. Just tell us what it was.
But I was at a major corporation, and I was like the top guy in the corporation nationwide, and I had a manager that just for some reason I'm not sure why we didn't really see eye to eye.
Yeah.
And I was constantly like killing these sales competitions, and then they'd call me into the main office and be like, okay, you need to do it this way. And I'd be like, okay, cool, do it that way. Okay, you need to do it this way. Okay, cool. And it was just a lot of pivoting, but it was pivoting. And you're a retired NFL player. Like, pivoting is good when the energy is being used to go in the right direction.
Right.
But every time you pivot, it's like trying to bench press, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to push the weight this way. Oh, got to push it this way. Got to go overhead. Oh, that doesn't work.
Right.
Thankfully, that was my last job in corporate America.
Yeah.
And I freed up a ton of energy. And as somebody who's in a position of, I'm a leader, right? I've got a team. I always tell people, we are on the same team. It's servant leadership. We do it together. Whatever helps you helps me, and vice versa. And let's be efficient, right? Let's be a well-oiled machine,
Yeah.
The cars. I don't want the gas to explode before it gets into the cylinders, and I don't want it to, combust when it's going off the tailpipe. I want it to be efficient. So I learned from those poor managers how to manage more effectively. And really the best way to manage, in my experience, is to look at the people you're working with, look at them as teammates. Look at them as almost as if they're your superiors. What can I do to make their job easier and their job better?
Yeah. No, that's great, man. That's great. Well, Dan, we're at the end of the show here. Really appreciate you coming on today, and man, you dropped some gold nuggets today. I got to go back and listen to this again, man. It was great. But we appreciate you coming on today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. How can my listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure. So they can find me on LinkedIn, Dan Lewkowicz. Last name is Lewkowicz. It isn't quite Smith, but if you spell it out a few times, you get it. And then listen, we're in 2020, so my best way to get in touch with me is my cell phone number, 248-943-2838. Again, 248-943-2838. Hit me up on social media, give me a text, give me a call, shoot me an email. Happy to help any way I can if you need evaluation on your building, or if you just want to chat about anything. I'm here, and I appreciate it. I thank you, Will, for the time and consideration having me on. It's been a pleasure to get to know you too, and I just have somewhat of a feeling that we're going to be doing some deals together.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Thank you for listening to the Generational Wealth Through Commercial Real Estate podcast, brought to you by Onyx Capital Investments. Onyx Capital Investments works with investors nationwide to invest in income-producing real estate in emerging markets. Connect online at www.onyxcapitalinvestments.com to learn more about what we're doing. If we have added value to your life, please leave us a review.